Welcome to Theology 101 at Mission U. I'm Darvin, and I am so excited to get started with you right now on this course. Our approach to this class is going to be to ask some of the most important questions there are to ask about God. And the first is simple. Why study theology? Well, think about all of Christian thought, morality, philosophy, and beliefs like an enormous tree. Our understanding of the essentials of the Christian faith, like who God is, what Scripture is, what Jesus has done for us, that is our basic theology. And that basic theology is the trunk of the tree. And then there's all the branches and the leaves. Think about all of those actions you believe to be right and wrong. Think of all the opinions that you have on hot button issues. Think about how you view yourself as a person. Think about all of your specific opinions about music and art and sexuality and economics and career and family. Yeah, we all have a whole lot of branches and leaves on our trees, right? But here's what happens to most Christians today. We get fixated on one little branch in the tree, or just one tiny little leaf, a detail of the Christian faith, or just something we believe. But we rarely spend time deeply contemplating the absolute essentials of theology, like who God is. So for many people, their tree trunk is so shriveled that no matter how much time they spend on those branches and those leaves, the whole tree, their whole faith, just cannot grow. Or maybe you've seen someone with a particular opinion, a leaf that is so obviously contrary to what we find in Scripture. But you've realized it really began with a more fundamental issue, like not understanding what the Bible is. So because the tree trunk is unhealthy, of course that particular leaf is unhealthy. Or maybe you've seen someone walk away from faith altogether. But what really happened was they were having a problem with a very specific topic of faith, like why there's pain in the world. But as that branch grew bigger and bigger in their life, their basic theology, the trunk of the tree, it just was not strong enough to hold up that branch. So the whole tree fell over. Why study theology? Simple. Because if we want a healthy, growing faith, we must have a healthy, growing tree trunk. The second question is this. Why do we need theology? Some people might say, isn't it enough to just love Jesus? Why do we have to add all of these categories and these details and definitions? And it's a great question, but it's a lot like a marriage. I've been married for 13 years and I love my wife. Now, imagine you and I were getting coffee and you asked what color of eyes my wife had, but I said, I don't know. Then you asked what her favorite foods were, but I said, I don't know. Then you asked what she enjoyed doing, but I said, I don't know. Pretty soon, you'd start to wonder if I had just made my wife up, right? The same is true about God. Of course we love Jesus, but we need to understand who he is. We need to be able to understand and answer some questions about what this God of the universe does, his characteristics, his actions, his salvation, if we're going to actually know him, instead of just making him up. Because of course, you cannot love someone who's unknown to you. Even simply saying the word Jesus begs the question of defining who he is. And that is a theological exercise. There is no Jesus without some basic theological exploration of who he is. The third question is this. What's the value to studying theology? Meaning, what does all of this knowledge actually change in our lives? Here's what I believe. Theology is the intellectual exploration of God that determines how we end up practically living our lives. We all have a theology. Everyone in the world has some sort of concept, some sort of definition of what they think about when it comes to God. So why not explore that theology? Why not ensure that our theology is correct instead of incorrect? Why not take the time to make sure that that theology is robust instead of anemic? Because in the end, your theology determines how you practically end up living. As A.W. Tozer famously wrote, what comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us. And that is so true. Because what you think about when you think about God will determine how you end up living your life. If you think about God as this distant, spiteful being whose motivation is just to take out his anger on us, well, then your actions are going to be driven by shame. If you think about God as a pliable divine force or a little buddy that's here to help you and encourage you and help you achieve your goals, well, then you're going to kind of just form your own God. If you think about God as a man-made construct, then you're going to act and live only for this life. What comes into our minds when we think about God, our theology, is the most important thing about us. Because in the end, it ends up determining on a very practical level how we live and act and feel and think in this world. The fourth question is this: what is the danger in not studying theology? You know, some people might think, well, there's just so much to do in life. Why would I take the time to acquire all of this knowledge about God? Why? Well, here's what Scripture tells us. Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed by a lack of knowledge. The prophet Hosea, he was writing in this time of great turmoil, and it was long after the great kings of Israel had passed away. He was warning the people and the priests of the coming destruction and the punishment that God was going to bring on them. And so he says this of them in Hosea 4:1-2. There is no faithfulness or kindness or knowledge of God in the land. There is swearing, deception, murder, stealing, and adultery. They employ violence so that bloodshed follows bloodshed. There was no kindness. There was no faithfulness in the land. The people, they were lying. They were murdering each other. They were stealing. They were having affairs. They were killing one another. But why had it gotten that bad? Well, Hosea makes it really clear. God's people have been destroyed by a lack of knowledge. Their theology had gotten off. This is the danger of bad theology. Bad theology destroys our lives and it destroys our faith. We must seek knowledge about God. We cannot settle for untrue beliefs that we fabricate for our own convenience. So often, today, we find people identifying themselves as Christians, yet so much of their lives and so many of their opinions and their morals are so obviously contradictory to what we find in the Bible and the historical church. And we might wonder why things have gotten so far off today. And the answer is not that complex. God says, my people are destroyed by a lack of knowledge. Bad theology destroys us. And then the fifth question to ask is, of course, what is theology? Okay, theos is the Greek word for God. Logia is the Greek word for divine communication, or to speak a word. So theology is to speak a word about God. Theology is the work of exploring doctrines, where we step back and ask, what does the entire Bible teach us today about some particular topic? Theology is the area of study where we explore the nature of the divine. So in theology, we explore the characteristics and actions of God by looking at Scripture, answering questions, defining terms, and creating systems of thought that help us understand God and the world and ourselves. Simply put, theology is the study of God. So how will this Theology 101 course work? Here we go. There are 10 sections to this course. Each of the 10 sections is prompted by a big question that we are going to seek to answer in that section. The first half of the course will largely cover who God is. The second half of the course will largely cover us, Jesus, and his salvation of us. You will start with each section by watching the lecture video. One way to take this course is to choose only to watch the lectures. That's fine. However, if you want to dive more deeply and treat this as a regular college level course, you can find an assignment document for each of the sections on the website. On that assignment sheet, you'll find the readings. The textbook we'll be using for this course is Wayne Grudem's classic book titled Systematic Theology, An Introduction to Biblical Doctrine. You can find a link to buy this book right in the first assignment sheet, and in each section you're going to find page numbers of what to read for that section. Also, most weeks we will include a linked article to read online. Next on the assignment sheets, you will see the writing assignment, which is just a short list of questions for you to write about and answer. You can drag these questions over into whatever program that you usually type in. Take your time to write between one paragraph and one page to answer each of the questions. This is really going to help you just process the information that you're learning in each section. And finally, you will find a link to a quiz that you can take to finish out each section. But of course, if you want to take this course with a more casual approach, you can skip the quiz. If you want to take a more serious approach, well, you can record your quiz grades for every single section and then average them out at the end of the course, and that will create your grade for this class. You can take each of the sections at your own pace. A section might take you a day or a week. It's your choice. And you can choose how you want to approach this class. Maybe you will just participate in the lectures. That's great. Or maybe just the readings and the lectures. Or maybe you'll take part in all of the aspects of the class. It's up to you. But whatever aspects of the course that you choose to participate in, and whatever pace you choose, I want to encourage you to stick with that choice. Stick with it throughout the course and see this course through to the end. Theology is the study of God, and it matters. It matters. I truly believe that this class can change your faith and your life. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get going with you as we embark on Theology 101 here at Mission U.